How did four teenagers and a cartoon voice artist create one of summer's greatest hits and one of the most valuable records in the world? Ike Frasier Industries presents another vinyl show with Ike Frasier. Hey everybody, it's your old pal Ike Frasier here, and today we're talking about the summer super hit Wipe-Out by the Surfaris. Three 15-year-olds and a 17-year-old in 15 minutes make one of the greatest summertime hits of all time, number 2 in the pop charts. Just a great song. Everybody knows Wipe-Out, and you'll have to see the video to see the story about it. It's a really crazy thing. I might have said in there that you do have to watch out for some fakes of the original, so that's why you got all the trail-offs in the video. But these guys were so young that the Beach Boys had only been out a small amount of time, and by '64 they toured with Roy Orbison and the Beach Boys. Also, you get that little bit in the middle of Surfin' Bird there that kind of sounds like they're trying to do the Wipe-Out. But it's really great. These guys got together and made one of the greatest songs. There is a rock and roll villain in this story, but we'll get to him later because the Surfaris did not own their own publishing for Wipe-Out, which would have made them quite a lot of money. It was taken away from them. So we'll get to the story, but I hope everybody's having a great summer, and it's Ike Frasier. Just wanted to tell you, look at the price of the first pressing of this 45 that they made. Incredible. One of the rarest records in the world. And enjoy the video, and we'll see you soon. Oh, you know what I forgot to say? We got some new subscribers. I want to thank all you guys. If anybody out there would like, you leave us a comment. Tell us what you'd like to hear. Subscribe. And otherwise, enjoy the video. And thanks a lot for watching and spending a little time with us. It's your old pal, Ike Frasier. We'll see you next time. Wipe-Out, the Surfaris super summertime hit. It all started back in 1962 when guitarist Jim Fuller called up his buddy Pat Connolly for a jam session. But they needed another musician. They're like, Bob Berryhill plays guitar, let's call Bob up. So Bob Berryhill comes over and they jam for about 3 hours. Then they head out to a high school dance and run into Ron Wilson. Thus, the Surfaris are born. A little bit later, Jim Posh comes in on saxophone, and that completes the lineup. Now they gig around for a little while, and they get a manager, Dale Smallin, a cartoon voiceover artist, who helps them get some gigs around town and stuff. Then Ron has a dream. He dreams about a surfer who becomes a Marine, Surfer Joe, and he wants to write a song about it, and he's got a melody, so he goes over to Bob's house, and he sings the song to Bob, and Bob helps him craft it into a song. Dale, the manager, hears it and goes, let's record it. Where are we going to record it, says the Surfaris. I know a place in Cucamonga, California, says Dale. PAL Recording Studios, run by Paul Buff, who takes charge of the session, and he gets the Surfaris in there, and they get started recording Surfer Joe. Unfortunately, Jim Posh couldn't make it because he had to work with his dad that night, but armed with a $100 check for studio time and 145s to be pressed, they head out there, and Paul Buff says, you need a B-side because they only have Surfer Joe. Dale says, you better write a song right now. We need 2 songs if you don't want the same song on both sides. So they come up with about 15 minutes of jamming. They come up with Wipe-Out, and they get 100 copies pressed, and they send these out to DJs and, sell them at shows. Then the challengers get them to get it released on Princess in February of '63. Then Dot picks it up in April of '63 for national distribution, and it spreads like wildfire, to the point that by July 27th, 1963, it is the #1 record in LA for 2 weeks. But on the national charts, it's held to the 2nd spot by Fingertips by Little Stevie Wonder. And it stays on the charts for a good long while. It is a summer super hit. But that's the first cover. And the first back cover has Jim on there. Now, Jim didn't play on any of these songs. He didn't go to the Surfer Joe session at all. And so Jim's father sues Dot Records. Dot Records ends up paying them $3,000 and removing Jim's picture from the back cover. So then they make a second pressing of the album that has Jim removed with a 4-member Surfaris on the back cover. Well, while all this is going on, the Surfaris get the record and they start listening to it, and they realize that these are not the recordings that they'd made. Because before they went on tour, they made a whole album's worth to go with Surfer Joe and Wipe-Out, and they recorded it for Dot in a day. But Dot was not pleased with these recordings, and so they replaced all of the other tracks, except for Surfer Joe and Wipe-Out, with instrumentals recorded by the Challengers, who had helped them get signed to Princess. Now, Surfer Joe was re-released as a single, and there's the sticker for Surfer Joe. That's pretty hard to get a copy of that. It went to 62 in the pop charts, but Wipe-Out went all the way to number 2. So then they had to make a second front cover that shows that was not the Surfaris playing on all those songs. And after all of that, they get dropped by Dot in 1963. Dot removes the Surfaris for the third back cover, and the Surfaris instantly sign with Decca. Decca has no rock and roll at this time. In fact, the last rock and roll that they really had was Buddy Holly. So they were looking for some rock and roll, and they re-recorded Wipe-Out and Surfer Joe for their first album on Decca, The Surfaris Play. There's the EP right there. That's pretty cool. Now, PAL Studios went up for sale in 1964, and Paul Buff sold it to a young Frank Zappa, who would not only live and record there for about a year or so. Now, around this same time, Pat Connolly quit before a tour of Japan, and they needed to replace him, so they got a replacement, and they got this guy right here, Ken Forsey. He's an incredible bass player, and when the Surfaris kind of collapsed, he joined Love, one of the most critically acclaimed California bands of all time, featuring a lot of great bass runs by Ken Forsey. You just can't say enough about him. He's an awesome bass player, for sure. Show me the money. What are these worth? Well, it might surprise you that in Jerry Osborne's The Money Records, this is the 719th rarest record. And I tell you, there were only 100 pressed in January of 1963, so that'll tell you how hard it is to find a copy. Now, here are the dead wax numbers, and that'll show you that the real copies have that in the dead wax. Surfer Joe was the A side, and Wipe-Out was the B side, but $2,500 on Discogs and eBay. There's your trail off right there for Wipe-Out. The Princess version, the second issue, that was only available for 2.5 months, $300 on eBay, $255 on Discogs. The original Dot from April of '63, that's anywhere from $3 to $15. And the Record Store Day red vinyl, that's pretty sweet. And we thank you for watching.